Good Choices, a holistic conversation about dance, art, and life with Sabine Müller. Hi, everybody. This is Sabine with Good Choices, a holistic conversation about dance, art, and life. I'm super happy to be back here with another podcast. I know it's been a while. I've been super busy, especially the last half of a year, with my Ismeta applications. So a little piece of information here. I have been certified as a Master Somatic Movement Educator. I'm very proud of it by ISMETA, which is the the International Somatic Movement Educators and Therapy Association. That's an international association that recognizes all of the forms that we're practicing in holistic dance. So contact improvisation and authentic movement and the different somatic practices and the ecosomatic practices. And yeah, I've been recognized with all of the many things that I've been doing and training in for the last decades. So, and the second part of it is that I'm also applying for the Holistic Dance Institute, but specifically the teachers training and the advanced teachers training to become an ISMETA certified program. And this application is pending as we speak. So that has been one of the things that I've been busy with, besides teaching and doing single client work and traveling and programming and all of the things that I get to do. So that's just an update. There will be more podcasts coming up again this season. I'm super happy to have Sabine Müller here today as my first guest again in this new season. Sabine has been a longtime collaborator, and we're sharing that in the podcast. And I'm super happy to have her also be a teacher in the Holistic Dance Institute since the fall. So that's another announcement that Sabine will be teaching in March and in May, and then in the fall again. Workshops with different emphasis, but all within the context of holistic dance. So there's always a little bit of authentic movement and sometimes more or less contact improvisation and body work. So it's in the line of the general intention of holistic dance. Yeah, just to let you know a little bit about Sabine. Sabine is a dancer. She has been dancing since her childhood. She will share that in the podcast. She also has a degree in English and psychology/philosophy. She's done many different trainings. I'll read some of them. She's had she did the teachers training early on. She did the first teachers training here in Austria with me, and then also she was in the first advanced teachers training. She also has a Trager bodywork training. She has training in Nuad Thai Massage. She has been trained in different trauma-sensitive somatic approaches. But she also really enjoys working on the land and with the land. She has different explorations, both in performance and also in her workshops. She gives single client sessions in her bodywork practice in the south of Vienna. And she teaches workshops, not just in the Holistic Dance Institute, but independently in Vienna, in Austria, and she's also taught at different festivals. So here I go with my conversation with Sabine Müller. Hi, everybody. This is Sabine, and I'm here with Sabine, my dear friend and longtime collaborator. I'm super happy to have you here, Sabine.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Happy to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Um, I want to share on how many different levels we have been interacting and collaborating and being creative together over really the last 14 years. Is that
Yeah,
possible?
almost.
Almost. I first met you, I think, in 2011, and that would be 14 years ago.
Maybe it was even 2010. yeah, before the end of the year, where we met for the very first time, when I came to you, wanting to know about your teacher's training. And I think the official sign-up time was already over, and you said, "Okay, come and we'll get to know each other."
Hmm. Yeah. And
Mm.
it's also amazing because I mean you're in your middle 30s now, and so you
Hmm.
were in your beginning 20s at the time, and I
Yeah.
remember meeting you and going like, "Wow, there's so much talent and so much potential." And for me it's been really a joy to just also have our friendship sort of evolve and
Mm.
like unfold over the years, and then also to really unfold all the different layers of working with you, because you were my student.
Hmm.
Clearly we were clearly in the student teacher role for a few years, because you did the teachers training and then the advanced teachers training, but
Right.
then at very soon we actually started collaborating with the Contact
True.
Festival.
Oh, even before that, we were co-organizing a workshop together. That was already
That is
2011.
That's true. Yeah, we invited Martin
So,
and we were co-organizing, and then we went on to organize the festival
hmm,
for 6, 7 years.
yeah, 6 years, I think.
Yeah. And then you became my editor and also translator for my card
Yeah,
set, and my accompanying books. So many, many layers to it. So the
absolutely. Yeah.
dancing itself, but
Hmm.
also documentation and organization. And I just want to say that ahead of time. I really, really appreciate you
Hmm.
and your knowledge and, yeah, all the talents that you bring to the form.
Thank you so much. And again, I've been appreciating how you've been trusting me with different, well, possibilities and options to work together and be creative. Yeah.
I don't think it's the end yet.
Oh, I'm sure it isn't. I guess otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here. It's not like
That
this
is
is the
that.
finishing line and now we're talking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So maybe this is also already at the beginning, one of the announcements that I have or we have is that
Mm.
starting like last fall, you also started teaching your own workshops within the Holistic Dance Institute. So you had one open workshop
Mhm.
last
October.
October,
Yeah.
September,
Mm.
October, yeah.
October.
And then so your next ones are coming up in March and in May, and
Yeah.
hopefully we will continue having you as your own teacher in the Holistic
Mm.
Dance Institute.
Yeah. I enjoyed that first one very much, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. So usually with my guests, I kind of like to go sort of towards the beginning, like the beginning of where you feel like where your dance passion or your movement passion
Mm.
started. And so my first question is kind of like, do you remember, like, do you have an early memory of yourself as a child or as a mover or as a dancer? Like when did these first sparks kind of happen and kind
Mm.
of fix you up? Because I feel you to be so passionate about moving and dancing, and I kind of want to know about your
Mm.
history about that.
Yeah, I actually have quite a distinct memory, but there's the funny thing about it is that I'm not entirely sure if it's my own because it's kind of a story my mum's told me, and it feels like it's made its way into my own memory. So I have an image, um, but probably it's a mix of my mum's and my own memory. So she told me that when I was around 4 or 5, I was watching a dance performance because my mum was also interested in dance, and my sister was also, I think, already dancing at a dance school in the south of Austria, where I'm from. And I was watching this performance as a small girl, and she said I was standing there completely fascinated with wide open eyes. And the way I was standing there, really concentrating and focusing on what I was seeing, she thought, well, it looks like she might be interested. So why not take my daughter to dance class and see if she likes it? And the way I understood it, I think she would have been very open to me saying after the first few times, well, no, it's not for me, I didn't like it, or if I did, then continuing. And as it turned out, I had my first few sessions when I was 5, and it seems like I enjoyed them. So yeah, I don't have very specific memories of that time, but I can still remember the gym hall where the dancing happened, and it was, of course, it was a children's group, and we were doing, I think today you would call it something like creative children's dance in the broadest sense. We also had some ballet foundations, but I was never really going for like actual ballet in terms of wanting to perform or wanting to specialize in ballet. But yeah, I started when I was 5, and then I just continued basically. So all through my childhood and teenage years, I stayed also with the same teacher. And I think I was kind of lucky. And it was quite a good fit in a way. So she was also, so that was Bernadette Trix Penasso in Klagenfurt in the south of Austria, where I grew up. And she was already a very, very, she had very broad interest in different kinds of dance. And so I think back at the time you could either do ballet in Klagenfurt or not much else. And she was the exception somehow. So she also offered flamenco classes and jazz dance, and even over the years with the group I was in, we moved more towards modern dance and even contemporary dance. And so I think I already got in touch with a lot of different kinds of possibilities, what could be dance. And
so versatility was there in the beginning on. It wasn't about a specific style, but more, maybe also more about the principles of dancing and then applying it to the different styles.
Yeah, I think you could say that for sure. It was also, it felt a bit like, I think, trying on different clothes and seeing how they fit. And I guess I was lucky to enjoy quite a different wardrobe, like a diverse wardrobe. And
I love the image of you watching the performance. Like it feels like your mirror neurons were on.
Yeah, they definitely were.
As a 5-year-old, and you're like, I want this. Like when I put myself in that situation, or when I imagine that, I have this feeling of just resonance. Your being kind of resonated with that quality.
I'm sure that's what happened. Yes, definitely.
And you were lucky with. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine. I also recall now. I think there was there were different aspects that I enjoyed. I think there was a lot of playfulness in some ways. I also remember the first little performance that we did, like the first little choreography that we learned. Was actually based on the story of the Jungle Book somehow. So I was a little monkey. I had this monkey costume. I was twirling my my legs and all, was in this funny fur costume. And so I think this is an aspect that I still enjoy very much today also in dancing, even when we come to improvisation then, which was not so much on the table back then. Not yet, it would come later. But this dancing also as a playful activity. And at the same time, of course, there was also a kind of really dedicating yourself to this activity, learning something, studying something, and staying with it also. Because if you want to do a choreography, even or maybe especially as a smaller child, where maybe it's not so easy yet to focus for a longer time. When I think back to that time, I'm quite fascinated that a group of small children could really stay with something like that for a longer time. And I think that's also
sounds like she was
quality.
Yeah, it sounds like she was a good teacher.
She was, yeah. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I think sometimes I was also annoyed about a few things, as always, I guess, in life. But especially now that I look back, I can really appreciate a lot what she showed us. Also, like you said, this versatility also, and a great feeling for music that she chose. So lots of really great qualities.
I'm wondering if, because I know that you have this training and that has sort of led you also in the different forms of dance throughout your life. So this versatility also on a, or background also on a technical level. And then I'm wondering if if there was another part of you, and I don't know this, because I know that you grew up did you grow up in Klagenfurt?
Yes, pretty much in town, but it's a smaller town. So yeah.
It's a smaller town. So my question goes towards, we're working so much with organic movement and with development and relationship to nature also, and or coming back to our own nature. Yeah. And so I'm wondering if the other piece of you growing up where you grew up, if or how you felt influenced by nature, and if you can also, if you feel like that is important as part of your moving or your understanding of the body, if that was somehow an influence on you.
I love that question also because I haven't thought so much about it yet. So I think I'm going to explore it together with you now.
Because I know nature is really important to you. I know that.
Absolutely.
You love being in nature, but I'm wondering if that was also an earlier part, or kind of like co-dancing with each other as you were growing up.
Yeah. I would say it wasn't as conscious as it is now, but I have some aspects that I'm immediately thinking about when you're asking that question. And the first thing is the lake, for sure. So Klagenfurt is very close to Wörthersee, it's a big lake. And one of my summer holiday memories for years is just going there every day in summer. Like biking there, it's just 10 or 15 minutes ride away from my parents' home. And swimming in that lake, and really the movement, this kind of the swimming motion is something that was already giving me a lot of joy as a kid. So just thinking about this fact now that for years this was part of my life for many, many days all through the summer. So that's definitely something that kind of seeps into my cells. And I have some memories of having this feeling of, in a way, today I would call it dancing with the water as I was swimming. So there was, on the one hand, there was this joy of just moving through like a fast fish somehow. But also, for example, if there was a little bit of a storm, there was more wind and there were more waves, then I felt like playing with the waves. So you could be annoyed because they're like crashing in your face and you can't swim as smoothly as usual. But I also enjoyed those moments when there was a little bit of a storm coming, because then I could, in a way, play with the waves, and they were more you couldn't predict so much where they would be coming from. And
a little bit like contact dancing.
It's a bit like
contact
dance, actually, yes.
Yeah. early practice.
Yeah, early practice. Yeah, so the lake is definitely a big influence on me in some way, and probably also on my movement, and in a way probably also about my awareness for nature in general, because in Carinthia and in Austria in general, I think many lakes are very much surrounded by private property. And it's hard to actually find a free entry or to just enjoy sitting by a lake by the shore. And this was already a topic that I can remember growing up, that at this lake where I was kind of whose neighbor I was in a way, I'm about to say. There's lots and lots of private property and hardly any opportunity to just access it. And there's another lake in Carinthia that I love a lot, the Weissensee. And we also
You were just there. You were just there, right?
Yes, I was just there actually, yeah, like a week ago.
You were teaching at this beautiful place. You showed me some photos.
Yes. Jump to the present. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was teaching a retreat with a couples retreat, massage and bodywork for couples, and in a super, super beautiful place. So this is also a feeling of coming full circle with memories from many, many years ago when I was there as a child. And now really feeling privileged actually to return and to be able to offer some work there that I love.
Yeah. Speaking of jumping ahead, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. So obviously there was a time where you were dancing and exploring, and then you went to university for something else, not dancing.
Exactly, something else, yeah.
What did you study?
I did a teacher's degree, so I was planning to become a secondary school teacher. And in Austria, the system requires you to take 2 subjects. So I studied English and psychology and philosophy, actually, which is, it's again split into 2 subjects in a way. And all these subjects are still areas of life that I'm interested in a lot. And I was back then, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have chosen them. But they sound very different in a way from what I'm mostly doing now. And I remember before my final exams at school that, of course, I was thinking about what am I going to do next? Which area will I choose? And there was the idea and the question, could I do something with dance? Because I was already dancing 3 times a week for quite a few years. And I think I was, in a way, a little bit too shy to go that path at that time. Also, mostly, I think, because what I was thinking about at that time was, well, becoming a dancer in terms of performing on stage. There was not really any other idea or any other professional path that I could think of when I was thinking of dance. And now that I'm saying that, actually, I realized that maybe sometimes it takes a few years to also discover other possibilities that I wouldn't have, that I just wouldn't have known about back then. So I chose something else that felt safe in a way, having a clear perspective on which job I would take after studying. And I did enjoy the time at university, actually. I didn't enjoy the job.
But I feel like, both the English, I mean, obviously you're a beautiful English speaker and you have a lot of knowledge also about grammar, which is really good for me because
Grammar, wow.
when you're editing and translating some of these texts, it's awesome. And so there is dance is a language. So really studying a language, I think, is really supportive. And also, I see your love for language and love for you write poems. Also, you probably, sometimes we get to hear them, and there is also a real talent there. And then the other part is also the psychology. And I mean, so much of what we're doing in holistic dance has a big psychological background. So I feel like, I don't know this, but my sense is that your studies are not lost, but you just sort of channeled them in a non-traditional way. You didn't go the route of teaching at the schools and being a school teacher, but you're still using all of that information to kind of really enrich what you're offering when, in the different settings that you're offering it.
That's a very beautiful way of putting it. Thank you. But it's
true. It's not just a compliment. I mean, I can, you can feel that. You can feel if somebody has studied a bit of psychology, or if somebody has studied really, I mean, you've done way more over the years, and actually that's some of the things that we decided we also want to talk about. So I feel like maybe it was a good base for you to then also venture out into some of these more also trauma informed, or like this process work that, you know, we're so strongly doing also in the work, that, you know, dance is sort of the basis, but then you bring in all this other background information. And, you know, we're still figuring, I mean, I'm saying we because it's both of us in the field. We're still figuring out what this is, you know. So you bring
what we can do with it and how it works.
What we can do with it, or where it's applicable. So in that story, like, where did improvisation, or maybe also contact improvisation or authentic movement, like, where did that come in? Was that during your studies already?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I would even say before that, because I do remember that even when I was dancing as a teenager, Benny, so our teacher, she would sometimes bring in improvisation already. And I also remember that I was one of the few that really jumped on the opportunity. Because I can very well understand there's often a divide when people learn dancing through way of choreography, and then they're sometimes like, oh, improvisation, what do? I have no idea. Or people learn mostly through improvising, and then they're kind of challenged by choreography, because suddenly I have to do these moves, right? And I found I can definitely enjoy both. And improvisation felt like something completely new opening. And I was definitely fascinated by it already. So it wasn't many times that I got the chance to do it as a teenager, but I already had the spark for sure. I even remember one session where there were just two of us for some reason, so I don't know where the rest of the group was. But we got a piece of music and we improvised, the two of us, and I was like, I definitely had a lot of happy hormones afterwards. And I think during my studies, or during university time, yeah, I remember one friend who was in contemporary dance class with me at the time. He already knew contact improvisation, and we were sometimes just fooling around dancing in a playful manner. And he was like, maybe you'd enjoy contact improvisation. I could take you to a jam sometime. And then actually that's what he did. He took me to a jam, and I knew nothing about contact improvisation. And today, this is something I would actually not recommend anyone doing. I would rather say, go to a class, learn some principles, because it can be totally overwhelming to first go to a jam. But I was just like, oh yeah, here I am. I'm gonna dance around to it. And I actually enjoyed it. And only after a few jams, I decided, well, now I can take some classes too. And that's what I did. So it was the beginning of my 20s, I guess.
Do you remember who was your first contact teacher? Like, did you then take a workshop?
Yes, actually, that was Alito Alessi at Impulstanz.
Oh, wow.
I did 1 week of contact improv with him. That was 2009, actually, I remember now. And then I had a bit of a break because I studied abroad in Manchester for a term. And then when I came back, I felt like I had to dance a lot, because in Manchester I didn't have the opportunity so much. And then I was like, okay, I have to take every chance that I get. And so I started to going to a lot of jams and also taking more classes. And that was certainly my most intense time of dancing around those years.
And then soon after you signed up for the teacher's training.
Yeah,
so it seemed like
so much
you were, and you were also, I mean, from the outside, it seemed like you were also really interested in the psychological aspect of it. I mean, you were studying psychology, but it also felt like, you know, with authentic movement and sort of there was an interest not just in the physicality, but like even at your young age. And I mean, I think you were 23 at the time. Is that correct? Early 20s.
Yeah, almost 20.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. but there was such a such an earnestness about that, like earnestness in the sense of commitment and really wanting to get into it, like not just skimming the surface. That's never been you. That's never been you. I mean that.
I guess not. No, I can't really do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I also remember now that you're mentioning it, like around that time, I had already done authentic movement a few times in a slightly different framework than the way you're doing it or the way I know it now from different teachers. Also in somehow in the course of some dance classes I'd been taking. So there was already an idea that this existed also. And I also remember the first time I did it that I had so much fun. It was a very fun movement session. So it was also a very positive association right from the start. And now that I'm saying this, it's also lovely for me to notice this kind of polarity that we've already been mentioning a few times now. I've been saying playfulness and joy, and you've been mentioning a seriousness and commitment. And I enjoy hearing of both those qualities because I think that makes for the richness also of the experience and also for something that I love to share in my work, in what I'm offering, to have this lightness, but also kind of the density and the ability to, or the, say, the openness to go deep with this.
Beautifully said. Yeah. I'm wondering if we jump a little bit more to the present moment, because you are, in all these years, you've done so many trainings, and you've also, you're a body worker, and you are really exploring this full scale of movement and touch, or dance or expression and touch, and then, both with being in groups, but also in doing single client work, because you also have a bodywork practice, but you're also offering bodywork in groups, and and so we're very much in the same inquiry of how does the one and the other influence each other. And I'm wondering if you can talk about that a little bit, because there is still, there's oftentimes, I mean, and this is my perspective, and maybe you have a different perspective, but oftentimes there's people who love body work or who are professional body workers, and they will go and take dance classes, but it's not necessarily integrated into their body work. And then there's the dancers or the movers, and they often get body work, or they do body work trainings, but this place in between, this juicy, enriching transition also from doing that and then taking that information to the other, that's where I feel like, my juiciness comes in, or also the interconnectedness of that comes in. And I perceive your work to be very similar to that. But I'm wondering, like, where are you maybe in the research in that, or do you like to focus sometimes on this one thing and then the other thing, or like what's sort of the richness of having this big, the big scope for you?
I've had a few spotlights of thoughts now. I have to kind of put them into order or see what comes up first. I mean, one of the things that definitely came up, of course, is contact improvisation. Kind of keyword, contact improvisation, because I think that's a very likely meeting point for the two areas. And you've mentioned juiciness, which is also something that speaks to me a lot, kind of what this word evokes. I'm trying to pull together the threads here. Because one other thing I was thinking about is, if you dance, maybe there is an image of you being more active because you are moving your body. Of course, you could also have the image of your body being moved, but let's say it's a more active thing. And with bodywork, if people go to get bodywork, then maybe there's often a more passive expectation. I'm lying down and you do something with me or to me, however you want to phrase it. And I think what I'm often interested in is dissolving these clear roles a bit in a way. Also with clients. Personally, I have to be honest, I'm not very interested in a client coming and saying, oh, I have some tension in my shoulders, please do away with it. That's not what
Fix
I'm
me.
offering.
Fix
Yeah,
me. Do it for
fix me,
me.
exactly.
Yes.
And I'm like, sorry, I'm not interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this is, I think, where movement and also maybe agency actually comes in for both sides. Because if someone then is willing to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to take up your suggestion to first maybe stand there and feel what I'm feeling, or to shift my weight between left and right and see what's going to happen. Or if I have those tensions in my shoulders, okay, can I move them, and how do they want to move, and how is it different if I do X or Y? Then we're into an exploration together. And then I'm interested because I'm accompanying this person. And this person hopefully is interested because it's their body, it's their movement, it's their process. And if this process is clearly physical then, or also more going into whatever emotional connections are coming up, or personal stories or whatever, anything in that area can be interesting. But then it's actually kind of climbing the ladder step by step in the present moment.
They become collaborators,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're supporting them, but they're not giving up their agency or their power to you. But you want to encourage people to be in their power and to start finding a relationship to their own body, because we can't do that for them. They have to do that for themselves.
Yes.
But it takes a willingness to be at least internally active, at least with their perception or with their intention.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you notice that? Because you were sharing that in the single client situation, and how would you incorporate the body work into your workshops and then into movement? Like, how do you transition from one to the other also?
I think if I'm teaching a workshop that is well, maybe let's take the example of the March workshop that is coming up, because it's actually exactly that. So in March, I'm going to be offering this workshop called Touch Base, which will mostly combine contact improvisation, somatics, body work, hands-on touch. And I think one way that is in which bodywork is very, very helpful for our dance also is that it makes us more aware of, let's say, parts of our body, because it's a very simple process. Even if I'm doing it now, if I put my hands on my knee here, as I'm doing now, or somewhere on my heart area, then there's already more attention going towards that place. And so even if I'm doing it myself, but of course, if there's other people, then it can be even more supportive. So if we have the opportunity to explore together through touch, then definitely one thing is that I get the chance to be more aware of what is actually happening in my body. And this body is basically my instrument for dance. So knowing more about my instrument can basically only enrich my dance in a way. And that is only starting from a static position in a way, right? Now, if we take that into movement, if, for example, very simply, the two of us would be dancing together, and I would put my hand somewhere on your body as you're moving, for example, then we both learn something about how the body is moving. So you kind of experience it from the inside of your own body, and I experience something about your body or your movement through touching and following with my hand, for example. So I think there's a lot of implicit learning going on through this combination of touch and movement, even if what we're doing is very, very simple.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
It's like, like that, what you just described, just having a hand on another person while they're moving, like the amount of information that's being sort of transmitted. And
Yes.
of course, it's not just the hand, but then there's a whole body that if I'm open, if I'm in my own sensory awareness, then I'm not only learning about you, but I'm learning about myself. And then I'm learning about our interaction. And I mean, that is such a simple principle, and it's so rich in it of itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Was just thinking that also, of course, in this way, I could learn something about anatomy in some way because I can feel and see how parts of the body relate to each other in a way, how all of this works in movement, if we want to take it into dance. And also, of course, if we're talking of contact improvisation, but also any way of body work where at least two people meet, then I'm also always learning something about myself in interaction with another human being. Even if it's the simplest touch on the shoulder, even if it's just that, if I'm really paying attention and listening and listen inside, then I would already notice, am I going more relaxed or more alert when this touch is happening? And that already is such important information that often we skip, I guess, in everyday life, because we think we have so much to do, and sometimes that's true. But those are very important and subtle pieces of information for our being in the world.
And what you're talking about is really the response of the nervous system as we go both into movement and into touch.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, how do you? I mean, that is a question that we have in the field as a whole, but I'm also wondering, you personally, like, touch is like a basic need for all of us. It's something that we as human beings need to survive. It's the sense that is first being developed. Also, it's like it's omnipresent, and it's directly related to the development of our nervous system and all of that. And at the same time, of course, culturally, touch can mean so many different things, or has so much potential also for uncomfortable situations or boundary crossing. And we're always there. Participants are always there with their personal history, but also with the collective surrounding that they have been brought up in. And so touch is a big issue. And how do you deal with that, especially when people first come to your workshops or are new to the work? Like, how do you go step by step, or do you explain it ahead of time, or like what are your tools to to support people in this maybe scary process?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Definitely going step by step, for sure. Yeah. So especially if a group is new to me, then of course I don't know everybody's story, and I don't need to know necessarily. It's more about slowly easing into the process, and then of course over time I will see how different people are dealing with this area, this topic. But in general, also like in contact improvisation, I would never start straight away saying, okay, now take a partner and do this or that with each other. Yeah, so even if we work with touch, then I guess the foundation is us in our own bodies. So I usually start with people being with themselves, because it also helps us to first be aware of ourselves and our boundaries. And if I can't feel that in some way, then I wouldn't be able to communicate it. Which is another important part, being able to communicate what is okay for me and what is not. And this is something I definitely explicitly talk about with people in class or in workshops also. So usually, I guess, before they they touch actually for the first time, I would always say that for whatever reason, it can just be that today this is not for you, or no one needs to explain anything, I guess. But I find it very important for people to know that they have choice how touch happens and when it happens and where it happens. And even if I suggest an exercise, that doesn't mean that it absolutely has to look like this. Someone might be saying, yeah, I want to do that, but maybe in a slightly altered version, and then that's fine. And I think it's actually great if someone can say that, because very often this is something that we haven't been taught, and that even if we hear that it's okay to say it, it's still very, very hard. And I've been doing contact improv and working with touch in different areas for so long, and still I notice that there are situations where I don't find it so easy. So I think it's very, very important to better mention it too often or find ways to encourage people to actually do it, because it can be a huge challenge.
And if that was kind of like the danger part of it, and if we're looking at the other part of it, of the healing potential, like what do you experience with people once they feel safe, or once they get to explore that part? What's the healing potential in touch and movement for you? What do you see, or what is it that you're interested? Maybe also from your own story. I think it's always really, if you want to share, like how does that support your own healing journey?
Yeah, I noticed that now that I've been interested so much in how our nervous systems work with us and for us. I'm very much taking this perspective nowadays. So what I'm going to say is probably very much influenced by this approach. Because nowadays, I would say what I notice in my whole being, in my body, in my emotions, when I experience touch that feels good and right for me, is a very big creation of space somehow within me. So I probably wouldn't have been able to describe it that way a few years ago, or maybe I just would have described it differently. I think I've always enjoyed touch and also bodywork from actually quite an early age on, in some ways. And I also know, though, that my system is very sensitive to what it agrees to and what it doesn't agree to. So
would you say that it has to do with the quality of touch or the quality of listening that either opens up space or helps you to open up space inside of yourself? Like, or like, I mean, different techniques have different approaches, but it's like oftentimes it's less about the technical aspect or the many years, and often it's also about the interrelationship or the connection that we have with somebody. If we feel like they're actually really seeing us, or their hands are seeing us, or they're giving us enough space to not guide us necessarily in a certain direction, but or guiding us a little bit and then giving us space again to unfold in some ways. So would you say that it has to do with that quality of interaction or quality of touch also?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the presence that someone is bringing to the situation makes a huge difference for sure.
Yeah.
So, like you said, it's not necessarily about the technique. I've enjoyed bodywork sessions of different kinds, and I've enjoyed situations of touch with someone who had no formal training, for example, and that's definitely not necessary. Yeah, it can be a great support for working with people, but it's not necessary for touch to feel good. It's much more about what is this encounter? Is the situation clear? Do you feel safe with this person? Do you get the feeling that they're actually where they are in their touch? And I get to witness this a lot, actually, also in my workshops with couples. It's very interesting to watch and to see, is someone actually just basically ticking off the boxes and saying, okay, now you've shown us this kind of movement, for example, I'm going to do it, ting, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm done. What's next? Or is it that someone is actually taking, let's say, the feet and then noticing, these are feet, right? And now, here I am. How does that feel? And I'm sure those two kinds of touch will arrive very differently with the person being touched, for sure.
And I love that you say that also, because I also experience that so much is that, yes, it's great if you have a 3-year bodywork training, but we as human beings, we can touch each other. I mean, both by our presence, and that doesn't even have to do with physical touch. I mean, so much of, how we're defining also what contact improvisation is, or also an authentic movement. We're, as witnesses, we're often, like, I feel often so touched by witnessing somebody. And so, like, what is touch? That's one thing, but then it's also really about this space that opens up when there is one person and then there's another person, and we're both experiencing each other in that space, and there's an openness towards this listening. And I think that's very much of why I'm offering what I'm offering. And my assumption is that it is, or what I'm hearing is that you are doing the same, is that we as human beings, we crave touch, or we crave being seen, and just giving each other these spaces, that in and of itself is healing. And it takes practice, or it takes, some simple entrance into it, or some principles of working. And of course, if you want to become a professional bodyworker, then it's great to do a real training. And I wouldn't say to anybody, don't open up a practice unless you have training. For sure. Same with teaching dance. Get some experience. But to interact, to practice with your friends, to go or with your partners, or also just to enjoy your quality of life. I mean, I think that's definitely for me also. I enjoy this quality of sharing, being able to share that as a gift with many friends also. So I love that you said that it's anybody can enter that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's
I have one last big question, which is, we've been sort of tiptoeing around the big subject of the nervous system. And since we were
all
both
have it.
we all have it, if we're aware of it or not. I want to talk a little bit about the polyvagal theory, because I know that we've both been studying it, and we were actually in the same trauma-informed training last year, and we had some
issues.
We had some issues. Oh, we had some Meinungen, some very clear points of views. And so I don't know, do you want to share a little bit about polyvagal theory, or the sort of the trauma informed therapy field, or how you position yourself in it? Like, I don't know if we want to have this, if that is too inconcrete to get into.
I think what is probably interesting for both of us, and what we also talked about as we were doing this training is the connection between nervous system work and somatic work, and the importance of dance, movement, and touch in this area. Because in this training we did, this was not so much talked about, and we were missing this, I guess. So basically, it's such a broad area that is, I think, only in the past few years or a few decades coming up and gaining more public awareness in a way. And I think it's absolutely worthwhile looking at it, because this is definitely an area that I would say when I learned more about it, it felt like a lot of things falling into place. And I'm just wondering how to sum the whole area up in a few meaningful words, because it's a rather large thing. But I think ultimately what is very important to me, and what I think is something that I can definitely take from all that I've been learning into all of my work with movement and touch, it sounds so simple, but it's the importance of safety, really. So I guess our nervous systems are wired for connection, because we grow up in connection, and we can't be without connection. If, as a small baby, we don't have physical and emotional care, then, well, we would just die, literally, right? And it's also about this emotional part, which also might include touch and being seen and being attuned to. And I think it's easy in a way, to dismiss all that by saying, well, but now we're grown up, and we can take care of ourselves, which is a super important ability. And at the same time, we still need each other, and our nervous systems are still organized in that way that we need each other. We need a kind of balance between activation and rest. We need first to feel safe in order to be able to go out and explore. It's true for children as well as adults in a way. Maybe you can frame it a little bit differently, but it's still the same. So our nervous systems have grown up with us, but they still work in a similar way. And I think all that we do with dance and movement and touch, connecting to our bodies, reconnecting to our bodies maybe, because we were connected to them anyway, but sometimes the connection gets lost a bit on the way. So all that work perfectly plays into giving us or supporting us in having this experience of being a whole human being, actually. And
yeah, I think I just want to add, or also add from my perspective. I think you said that very eloquently, that it's really about the wholeness, and that we actually have access to it. And I think what we were both missing in the training, and it was, I mean, looking back at it, it was also a training specifically for therapists, but and it's not that we're not therapists, but we're coming more from the body work therapy point of view. We're not psychotherapists. And yet, I think what we were both missing was really the body, and knowing how much is possible in this healing journey of working consciously and safely with trauma, that we were both missing. So there's a lot of, from my perspective, there's a lot of language, and it's language based, and our culture is language based, and then I always immediately feel like, yes, but it's not just a somatic approach, like even the word somatic, what does that mean? And that there is so much more possible beyond just breathing with a client or beyond just taking a moment to sense into their body parts. And I'm not trying to diminish the value of language-based therapy, not at all. Or a lot of what's out there is like somatic approaches to language therapy, like language-based therapy. I'm not trying to diminish that at all, or also just that development that somatics are being included. On the contrary, I think it's really important, but it's not the only point of view. And I think what we were both missing is the acknowledgement of the floor, gravity, early developmental movement, even
sure.
birth traumas, birth matrices, working with the spine, working with spinal cord, and again, also with movement, of how much access we have to so many things that people are actually struggling with in feeling safe in this world, or feeling safe in their bodies, or feeling safe in interaction with somebody else, can be addressed through the body and through movement if you hold it in a safe container. And I also feel like the polyvagal theory is a beautiful, beautiful approach to just figuring out how we learn, or when we're open. So when we're open to even perceiving new information, and when we're stuck in a trauma, to just even recognize that with clients or with participants.
Yeah, which is super helpful in any teaching or working with people situation, to be able to notice, okay,
exactly,
maybe this person or this group is not ready now to take up anything new now. We have to go a different way first to open a space where it's possible to actually reach someone, right?
Exactly. So that as a basis of a tool is fabulous. And I mean, I think maybe we just have to again offer our own polyvagal dance. That's something for the future to explore. Yeah, for sure. But it was also very enjoyable to do this parallel with you, also from your perspective. And you are a younger generation than me, and I have my sets of trainings, and you have your sets of trainings. But to just really feel like, okay, so as dancers, we have a different Selbstverständnis. We have a different, what's Selbstverständnis in English?
It's a feeling of ourself.
Yeah, like a internalized, I feel like it's such an internalized knowledge of what's possible through the body. And again, I find the language very important, but like in balance, because so much of our work is
building bridges also, right? Because for example, in authentic movement, the verbal language part is very important actually, and I find that the value lies exactly in the connection between the two. So it's not just talking, or it's not just moving, but it's being witnessed as you do both, and like we said, being seen, being acknowledged in the way we are right now. And that actually, now that I'm saying this, I'm noticing again that this is something that is one of my main wishes for people to experience, actually. It's so beautiful when you see that it can happen in a space that you're holding, that people can actually let their guard down a bit, maybe, show themselves in a way that feels safe for them, show themselves maybe in ways that they are not so easily able to show in other circumstances. So really bringing your whole self to the table is such a beautiful thing to witness.
And growing into ourselves. I mean, growing more into our unconscious material and our potential, that allows us to even learn about ourselves as we go along. So it's not a finished product, or it's not, we're not done. It's lifelong learning. Well, Sabine, that's actually a beautiful way to sort of end this conversation. Yeah. I appreciate you a lot. I
Oh.
think you're a fabulous friend. I'm so happy that we're able to hold so many different layers of working together and sharing and doing trainings together. And
Mm.
yeah, and also if I can say, I'm really proud of you. I mean, from the perspective of the teacher, seeing how you developed over the years and yeah, the directions that you've taken. And yeah, I love you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your trust. I think that's also something I would like to tell you, also officially through the podcast. And it also even relates to what we've been talking about. So
Mm,
trusting somebody and really, of course, not just blindly, but based on something you've seen, and then trusting them also makes so much possible. So
yeah.
it's also kind of a token of appreciation, and it also opens up new doors.
Mm.
So this is a beautiful gift from you. Thank you.
Well, to many, many more adventures in the future.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
If you would like to know more about holistic dance and the Holistic Dance Institute, please visit us at our website www.holistic-dance.at. Holistic dance is an invitation to transformation through dance, movement, and touch. It was founded by me, Sabine Müller, in 2010. It is a mix of different methods, a dynamic cross-method approach from dance pedagogical, dance and body therapeutic, systemic and holistic methods. We offer authentic movement, integrative contact improvisation, somatics and applied anatomy, improvisation, ecosomatics, and many more elements. I offer holistic dance workshops, I offer single sessions, I offer teachers trainings, embodiment trainings, advanced teachers tracks, year groups, and retreats. I would be very happy to see you at one of our events. And if you have any questions, please write me an email.